So as we roll into 2025 and boating season is right on the horizon on Lake Murray right here in South Carolina, I want to dive into those most budget-friendly neighborhoods on Lake Murray. Some of you may ask me about Lake Murray and homes around the lake, especially in those lake neighborhoods. And one of the top questions is, are there homes on Lake Murray neighborhoods under $500,000, under $400,000, or even $300,000? And that answer is yes. And we're gonna dive into those neighborhoods. And later on, we're gonna touch on condos too, because I've had more of you ask about this. And at the end, you'll wanna stick around because I'm gonna tell you what the lowest priced home you could find in each of the counties on Lake Murray itself. So let's get started. All right, so we get kicked off in the Timberlake neighborhood out here in Chapin. This one's gonna be a little bit unique compared to the rest ones. One, because their average price is actually over $500,000, the only one that's gonna be that way. But the reason I included it, if you haven't been out here to Timberlake, it's made up of multiple different subsections. And there's a variety of different styles of homes. I mean, you're talking estate style homes, all the way to patio style homes. And so because of that, their lowest price point sold in the last year out here is actually gonna be less than some of the next neighborhoods that we actually cover. As well as we come around the corner here, I'm gonna show you, this neighborhood itself is a golf course neighborhood, the only golf course on Lake Murray, but their marina down here is actually not exclusive to Timberlake neighborhood. That's right. So you may live in another neighborhood and you can have your boat down here in their marina. And so there are some subsections that do have their own boat ramp, but it's not gonna be like the other ones that we cover where, you know, there's a boat ramp exclusive for that neighborhood. And so that's why I say this one's different. But of course, being a golf course neighborhood and the variety on here, you gotta include it when you talk about neighborhoods on Lake Murray. But let's dive into pricing out here on Timberlake over the last year. And so as I break down the pricing here, again, we're talking about since the beginning of 2024, and we're talking about those homes off the lake. Again, at the end of this, I'm gonna dive into what you can truly get for homes on the lake on Lake Murray. But either way, homes in the past year range from 1,500 square feet up to 5,900 square feet. Pricing ranging from $340,000 up to $880,000, with the average price coming in at $557,045. But it brings it to an average price per square foot of $185 out in Timberlake in Chapin. All right, so welcome out to Palmetto Shores out in Chapin. So this neighborhood is primarily built by Mungo Homes, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but it's gonna be a mix of a section of their patio style homes where front yard maintenance, annual pressure washing is included. And then a majority of it though is gonna be their more single family style homes. Now on the lake lots that were on the water, those ones were sold off as individual lots, so that's where you might have some more customized homes there. Outside of that, to give you an idea of the neighborhood, they do have 2 community pools, as well as they have their boat ramp right here in the neighborhood. There is as well a community boat parking. Now, with that said, I can tell you this is one of them that it's not that big and it fills up. So there is a wait list, last I've heard, for that boat parking. But of course, you do have the boat ramp right here in the neighborhood. And with that said, I think this is important because a lot of people ask, most of these HOAs do not allow you to park a boat right there in your driveway. So that's why this is important. So of course, if that's filled up in these neighborhoods, you're gonna have to find somewhere to store your boat. Because again, there is a neighborhood that does allow you to, and I'll talk about that when we get to that neighborhood. But either way, let's talk about pricing out here in Palmetto Shores in Chapin. Homes in Palmetto Shores range from 1,615 square feet up to 4,517 square feet. Prices range from $348,000 up to $693,830, with the average coming in at $493,174. But it brings the average price per square foot in Palmetto Shores and Chapin to $181. As well, Mungo Homes is still selling new homes in this neighborhood. All right, so now we're out here at the Night Harbor neighborhood in Chapin. This is a well-established neighborhood with a variety of different styles of homes out here as well. Now, with that said, recently, Great Southern Homes did find a plot of land out here, and they're actually building some brand new homes. And so we're gonna be talking about that when we talk about pricing as well. But out here at Night Harbor, you do have their private boat ramp as well as a private marina. Now, I always tell people with a lot of these marinas, this one specifically, there's not enough boat slips for everybody in the neighborhood. Some of the neighborhoods that we talk about do have it, and I'll tell you which ones those are, but this one doesn't. So it's kind of a wait list to get those, and a lot of times when they sell the house, they pass off those deeds to that boat slip. So when you buy that house, you know, if you want that boat slip, you can get it. As well, of course, they have their clubhouse out here, as well as there's some boat parking in the back as well, which is the same thing, kind of first come, first serve, but easier to find boat parking than there is to per se get your hands on one of these slips. Either way, again, out here in Chapin, let's talk about pricing out here at the Night Harbor neighborhood. So in the last year, you had homes ranging from 2,077 square feet up to 4,300 square feet. Pricing ranging from $384,000 up to $620,000, with an average of $492,283. But it brings it to an average price per square foot in Night Harbor and Chapin to $184. And keep in mind, this is what I like to call a highlight series, highlighting a ton of different neighborhoods around Lake Murray. There's a ton more that I hope you do consider. And with that said, for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Brandon. My team and I of local real estate agents have truly been helping people from all over the country relocate right here to the Midlands of South Carolina, Lexington, Columbia, and the beautiful Lake Murray. So please don't hesitate to reach out. That way you don't have to go it alone, and we can help you explore more neighborhoods right here around Lake Murray in South Carolina. All right, welcome out to Paradise Cove in Chapin. So this gated neighborhood out here in Chapin actually had a couple established homes in it, and then Mungo came along and they wrapped up building the rest of the development. There's actually a sign in the back that says there's a possible future development in the future, but we'll keep an eye on that to see if anything comes of that. Either way, this neighborhood here, they do have their own marina, and in that marina, everybody in the neighborhood gets their own boat slip. That's right, like I talked about in some of the other ones, there's not enough for everybody. At this neighborhood, there is. Now, as well with that said, another unique thing about this neighborhood and some of the others that we tour, those homes on the lake, majority of them actually didn't get their own private docks. Their docks are gonna be over there in the marina as well. So keep that in mind as we dive into pricing, because I will be talking about some of those that are lakefront. They simply get the view of the lake, but they don't get private access to it with their own dock. They gotta head over to this marina over here. But either way, let's dive into pricing out here. And so homes in Paradise Cove range from 1,346 square feet up to 2,662 square feet. Prices ranging from $379,900 up to $499,900, with the average coming in at $431,300. But it brings it to an average price per square foot in Paradise Cove in Chapin of $229. All right, welcome out to Sunset Bay in Lexington. So this neighborhood, I used to tell people, remind me of those Florida beach homes, right? They got all the pastel colors. So you have a lot of porches and so much more. But either way, let's dive into the neighborhood itself. So they do have boat storage parking. It's kind of on the outside of the neighborhood, but it is for the neighborhood specifically. As well, you do have this whole area over here, right? And what it's set up as is kind of an overlook over the lake down there, right? Sunset Bay, it's in this bay right here, and you can see views of the sunset. But you can see, right, they got all these fire pits over here, and then down below, they kind of have a beachfront. And then they do have, of course, the boat launch ramp over here, and then some kayak storage. There are some homes on the water. These homes here do share docks if you do end up buying one on the water. If you watch my video about Lake Murray, I talk about who gets private docks, who gets shared docks, and who doesn't get. But either way, these ones are shared. But either way, let's dive into pricing out here at the Sunset Bay neighborhood in Lexington. So when it came to pricing in Sunset Bay, homes sold between 2,144 square feet up to 2,817 square feet. The pricing ranged from $390,000 up to $470,000. But the average came in at $430,816. But it brought it to an average price per square foot in Sunset Bay and Lexington to $184. All right, welcome out to the Clearwater neighborhood in Irmo. So this neighborhood does have the community boat ramp. It's an established neighborhood, and you have your traditional single family homes at the bottom as well. You have some courtyard style homes. They do have boat storage, as well as they have some tennis courts over here. But either way, all right, so to give you an idea, out here in Clearwater, actually since the beginning of the year, there were only 2 homes that actually sold. One of them was those courtyard patio style homes that was 2,029 square feet, and it sold for $374,900. As well, there was one of the single family homes. That one was 2,008 square feet and it sold for $390,000. So that hopefully that gives you an idea of Clearwater out here in Irmo. All right, so welcome out to Settlers Point in Lexington. So interesting enough, their boat ramp is actually across the main road from the neighborhood. So none of the homes in the neighborhood are actually sitting on the lake, and you have access to it though in this neighborhood. As well, with that said, this is one of the neighborhoods the last time I was out here showing a client, not too long ago, we were talking with the neighbors and they said they're actually in the process of changing their HOA bylaws, where it used to say during the season you were allowed to park your boat in your driveway, but they were changing it to make it year round. So obviously this is something that can change, but of course this is one of those neighborhoods that potentially you could park your boat right there in your driveway in the neighborhood. Otherwise, let's dive into pricing out here in Settlers Point. So in Settlers Point, homes range from 2,221 square feet up to 3,500 square feet. Homes sold between 291,500 up to 485,000, with the average coming at 377,777. That brought it to an average price per square foot in Settlers Point in Lexington to $131. All right, so we're out here at the Pintail Point neighborhood in Gilbert, and we're gonna be talking about the Lakeside Reserve section here in Pintail Point, because for reference, the rest of Pintail Point, larger lots and their average price was actually well over 500,000, which is why we didn't cover it in this video. And so reach out, of course, if you're considering that. And while we're on that topic, I will get back to Lakeside Reserve and their pricing and everything this neighborhood has to offer. But of course, as you're viewing these, keep in mind, we're right now right around the corner from one of the public boat ramps on Lake Murray. And of course, they have day use parking where you can park your trailer, take your boat out for the day, and it's entirely free to do that. And there's neighborhoods around this area that are non-HOA, so you could park your boat right there in your driveway, right? As well as you have other neighborhoods like Fox Chase right around the corner from where I'm at. And their HOA actually allows you to park your boat. So if you're like, hey, Brandon, I love all these neighborhoods, but I want to be able to park my boat in my driveway, or maybe this just wasn't your cup of tea for any of these neighborhoods. There are tons of neighborhoods around the lake where you still are right around the corner to access to the lake. So that's why I say don't hesitate to reach out, because we can dive into more of those options if one of these isn't for you. But let's go back to, again, Lakeside Reserve out here at Pintail Point. So being that Lakeside Reserve, this gated section over here is within Pintail Point, they still get access to their amenities. So you're talking about their community pool, their community clubhouse, and then right behind me, they have their marina. Now this marina, again, was deeded boat slip, so there wasn't enough for the entire neighborhood, so not everybody's gonna get one. Either way, let's dive into pricing over on Lakeside Reserve, the gated section here in Pintail Point. So as you can see, Lakeside Reserve out here at Pintail Point is a small gated neighborhood. And I could only find one home that sold in recent time, and that was back in April of 2023. Either way, to give you an idea, this was a 2,387 square foot house that sold for $355,000, which, to give you an idea, is $150 per square foot. All right, welcome out to Cedar Cove in Chapin. This established neighborhood is kind of set up a little bit different, and I'll dive into that in just a second. So they do have boat parking up at the front with a first come, first serve basis on that. But as we walk down here to where the boat slips are, they do have, of course, the boat ramp for the neighborhood, that private boat ramp. But these boat slips, this is where it's a little bit different. As I talked about, and some of the other ones are deeded. So these are actually leased out. And so they have a couple different options out here. They have their annual leases, they have their seasonal leases, and then of course they leave a couple, or I think one open for visitor parking as well. And so with that, again, they're not actually deeded to those homeowners, and they lease them out every single year. Now they do continuation, so it's not like you're gonna get the boot, more than likely if you've been leasing it for some time. And so when one frees up, that lease becomes available for that next person. As well, as you can see, because of this pathway that leads to all this, these homes right here on the water aren't gonna have their own docks. They may have easy access to the marina. And so again, important things to keep in mind with these different neighborhoods and the different ways that they're set up. But let's dive into pricing out here at Cedar Cove in Chapin. So out here in Cedar Cove, you had homes selling between 1,877 square feet up to 2,243 square feet. Prices range from $300,000 up to $331,000, with that average coming in at $318,666. brings it to an average price per square foot in Cedar Cove and Chapin to $159. All right, so as we dive into the most budget-friendly neighborhood right here on Lake Murray in South Carolina, keep in mind right after this, we're gonna buzz real quick through the condos. There's not a ton of them, so we won't take too long on that. But after that, we're gonna talk about truly what the most budget-friendly home you can find right there actually on the water on Lake Murray. And I think some of this will surprise many of you, whether in the good or the bad. But either way, let's dive into Marina Cove out here in Gilbert. So in this neighborhood, you do have a lake access down there with their private boat launch. As well, you do have a community pool, as you can see right here. They have a community playground. There is some boat parking up at the top of the hill as well. But really unique neighborhood out here. As you can see, these are very log cabin-esque, right? And so you do have some that are more the newer ones that are the style of log cabin, so inside is drywall. But some of the older ones, you go on the inside and they got those cedar walls inside of them. But either way, really unique neighborhood out here, most budget-friendly neighborhood. But let's dive into pricing out here at Marina Cove on Lake Murray. Homes sold between 985 square feet up to 1,610 square feet. Pricing range from $211,900 up to $315,000, with the average price coming in at $269,877. Brought it to an average price per square foot in Marina Cove in Gilbert to $214. All right, so as we dive into condos, again, I've had more and more people ask about this. Our area is not saturated with a ton of condos. You have a few on Lake Murray that we're gonna talk about, and then of course, some down by the college. But let's dive into those right around and on Lake Murray. Hammock Bay in Lexington. Condos range from 953 square feet to 2,000 square feet. 190,000 up to 340,000, with the average coming in at 286,500. Keep in mind, a lot of these HOAs are gonna be a lot higher than, of course, the neighborhood. Spence's Point. Condos ranging from 1,200 square feet up to 1,344 square feet. From 325,000 up to 360,000, with the average coming in at 342,250. Harborside, there were two condos, a 1,450 square foot for 239,000 and a 1,300 square foot for 332,500. Say Cove, there were two condos, a 2,840 square foot for 715,000 and a 3,200 square foot for 760,000. The Village at Lake Murray. There are condos ranging from 1,350 square feet to 1,443 square feet, ranging from 187,000 to 200,000. Yacht Cove. These condos range from 1,201 square feet to 2,690 square feet, from 180,000 to 335,000, with the average coming in at 251,000. The Boardwalk Villas. These are villas, not specifically condos. There is one that was 1,150 square feet that sold for 214,000. But to give you an idea, this one was on the main highway. The ones off the highway, the last I could find, sold in August of 2022 at 1,250 square foot for 300,000. So expect higher for those off the road. Land's End. These are townhomes on Lake Murray. 3 sold over the last year. 1,128 square feet for 340,000, 1,350 square feet for 369,000, and 1,436 square feet for 400,000. Now let's talk about on Lake Murray, the lowest livable single family home. So again, we're not talking about mobile homes, and I wanted to make sure that it had a dock out there. When we dive into the ones in Lexington, Irmo, they were still sold as is, but they were what I would consider livable, right? Because there's a ton of places that are more than just carpet and wall paint, right? If you know what I'm talking about. But the as is ones might need some of those updates from what I know a lot of you ask for, but at least they were livable is the best way to put it. Either way, the Lexington one, this first one was in Leesville and it sold for $375,000. It was a 700 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Now let's roll over to the Lexington 1 school district, because when we're talking about Lexington, I know this is the area a lot of you are asking for. That lowest price one sold for $449,000. It was an 840 square foot, 3-bedroom, 1-bath home with a 558 square foot of finished basement that had a half bath down there as well. Next, we roll into the Irmo and Chapin area. Lowest price home there was $465,000. This was a 1,729 square foot, 4-bedroom and 3-bath house. Next, we roll into Newberry County, and into the more rural counties. The lowest price we saw sold there was $425,000. It's gonna be for a 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. Next, we roll over to Saluda County. So the lowest price we saw was $430,000. This was for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,100 square foot bungalow. Keep in mind, as we break these down, when you go to the average cost of a home right there on Lake Murray, we're talking about single family, excluding mobile homes. And then these ones, to be 100% honest, I didn't exclude the unlivable ones. But to give you an idea, the average price for those single families in the Lexington, Chapin, and Irmo side was just over $1 million. And heading over to the more rural, Saluda and Newberry, we saw the average single family coming in around $750,000. And for those looking in the more rural areas, I've recently done a driving tour of the rural part of Lake Murray. And of course, to learn more about the area, you'll want to check out this playlist of all of those driving tours, where I take you on a drive through all the different areas to get you a better idea of the on-the-ground looks of these different areas that you're considering, including, like I said, around Lake Murray.